Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Friday, December 15th, 2023. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, the altcoin market, various altcoins if need to be, like the XRP price chart, including the stock market as it gets ready to open up here in 3 minutes from right now. Of course, we'll peek over there at the United States Dollar Currency Index, or the DXY, and precious metals, finally concluding with checking on any type of financial news that is out there today, or any type of crypto news that seems to be of importance. As we get the day kicked off and get started, Bitcoin sits still above $42,000. As you guys know, it's been a big week. We saw the Dow Jones close into the all-time high after Jerome Powell delivered his speech on Wednesday. Yesterday, that continued with the Dow still up another 158 points, still continuing to close into the all-time high. These little dots right here, these little marks that I have here on the charts, this is 2023 on the top, this is 2020 on the bottom, is what we've been comparing. Now marking the two spots where the Dow Jones did break into the all-time high at the pretty much exact same point, and price action acting very, very similar between the two, which has been very, very interesting. Let's see, what else do we want to cover before we get started and dive in? DXY is still down. DXY got down to like 102. Of course, we'll cover into that. Altcoin market and crypto market, mixed red. You can see total 3 just sits right here. It's kind of down 1%, others down 0.15, still higher than earlier in the week. If you remember earlier in the week, all the panic on Monday, yeah, there you are right there. You're back now above where you at least started on Monday. For others, back up at $193 billion. But Bitcoin's still waddling around up here in these price levels still right now, just kind of not really trending, just sitting up in those areas. So we'll dive into it today. We'll actually keep it pretty light, tight, and bright here for a Friday. If you are subscribed to the newsletter, boom, it has been sent out. This was a doozy. This is over there on my Substack. This is a premium subscription-based newsletter. It took me 4 days to put all this together. And of course, this is based on 2 months worth of research and data to finally complete this and get it sent. So if you guys haven't checked your email yet or haven't checked your Substack app, that has been sent. I just posted a link in the chat right now. Case study crafting a crypto portfolio for 2023 to 2024. Winning strategies through developer activity, drawdowns, and circulating supply analysis that worked in 2021. As you know, the last 3 newsletters have been about different segments of data, trying to compile those and see how those worked. And then now it's been combining all of them together to try to see what would have been the best portfolio for 2021. And if those same rules were applied to 2023, what would a portfolio look like in 2023 right now? And boy, I'm whooped. I'm exhausted. I'm happy it's Friday because this has just been all of my attention here for this week. This is what I've been doing behind the scenes when not on YouTube. And I'm so thrilled. It has been published. It does include a 32-minute audio voiceover in there. So if you want me to read it to you, of course, I could do that and explain images or spreadsheets that I've posted in this as well. And I'm thrilled to have it released, and I'm thrilled that today is Friday. Again, that's over there at blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link that I just posted in the chat, and there's a link in the description of this live stream and all of my live streams and videos. But there we go. Bitcoin sitting above $42,000. You got some altcoins in the green up there. Most of the stuff's kind of chilling in the red. Stock market's going to open up here right now. There we go. We just opened right now. It's going to open down 44 points for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, down 9 points for the S&P, and up 48 points for the NASDAQ. So pretty much a flat opening, kind of a mixed opening between the two. You can see half in the green, half in the red over here on this list that we have right now. As for the DXY slammed down to the levels that we said. Now it's getting a bounce. Thing we'll keep our eye on is if we can come back and hit it one more time. And again, just explaining crashing structures. That's all we're doing here on the DXY. We're merely just taking the crashing structure and applying it in here. We knew that was wave 4 within wave 5. And then what do? We go and set the new low. So we talked about markets in the morning for the last week or two. There's a new low. Typically what happens in these, and boy, putting a lot of But a brand equity in here to say typically we go back down one more time. That's just what typically happens. You typically go hit it one more time, then you'll shift your way up, and then we'll ABC from there. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking of. I think the bulk of the shift down has already happened here in the DXY. Of course, with the stock market getting up into those new all-time highs. In order for the Dow to actually smash through the 4.236 extension and keep going, you would think the DXY probably needs to break down pretty heavy. That's a hard bet for me to place on. I'm definitely, if you caught yesterday's video, we talked all about the Dow, all about the locations in here. And we even talked about it in Markets in the Morning, even this right in here. That is exactly how distribution does happen on these things. So this will be our focus in the coming weeks and months. One thing we talked about yesterday is just a misconception that everybody has that rate cuts means it's time to get extremely bullish. Of course, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, please go watch it. Please stop falling for the traps on Twitter and the narratives that are spun on Twitter. We could see that the market has priced in 6 rate cuts there in 2024. We went back in that video and we looked through the last 3 rate cut cycles that have happened. We know it during a pause period. We could see the market rally. However, when rate cuts happen, that's when things start getting dicey. And based on the great financial crisis and based on C19, what we ended up seeing was we saw 1 to 2 cuts and the market did rally into that. They did get exciting. But then once you got past that, S hit the fan big time throughout markets after that. It's almost like a misconception of being like, yay, we're getting looser credit conditions. Let's all go nuts. And then it's like, well, wait, why are we getting looser credit conditions? Oh, because everything is really bad. Run. And that's just kind of how it has happened. So, we'll keep our eye on that stuff as time progresses on in here. But otherwise, still just the drifting up in here for Bitcoin and just kind of boring in here this week for Bitcoin for sure. Is this Monday? Yeah, this was Monday. This was the sell for Bitcoin on Monday. But as you can see, the altcoin still popped up slightly a bit over here, except for XRP, of course. Like, where are you, XRP? You're in here somewhere. XRP still continues in the ranging context, which everybody's begging to get some type of technical analysis done on this thing. Like I've said, when we're in a ranging context, bouncing between those zones, you're looking for trending behavior to happen in here. And like I've said, ranges by design can be chaotic. Here we are, weeks into this thing. It's just ranging and chaotic all over the place with no trend in place in here. So we have to either watch ourselves get down to the bottom of a range, get back to the support levels, then we have an area of interest to pay attention to, or get to the top of the range and say, okay, now we're at a level that can be a breakout. So what happens at tops of ranges? Traders will short it. They'll set stop losses above it. What happens when we get to the bottom of the range? Traders will long it, play stop losses below it. But in the middle of it, traders are not really going to play with it, at least not professionals. They're not going to be touching it here in this area right here, waiting for it to get to a better risk management level. So if we got back up near the top of the range, then we could start saying, hey, all right, we're kind of at this moment now. Can we get the actual break to happen? But if we get to the bottom, we can be like, okay, now it's time to find if some supports can happen. Here in the middle, just again, and I know it's tough because people want to talk about it all the time and they get bored, and XRP holders get real frustrated because this is what your price action looks like. This is what your price action looks like. Otherwise, when you're not in these types of moments, right? So let's go like this. Let's go like this. Let's go like this. This is what you deal with at all times outside of the very, very brief times when the price does rise. I mean, that's so quick you can't even see the bar. So we'll add 4 days on it just so we can actually see it in there, which we know it's not. It's only 1. That is typically how price action moves on this asset. And you have to just kind of wait things out till finally things start getting moving. But right here at the current price level, it's just not a lot to say. What we would have things to say if we got near the bottom of the range to say, okay, now let's look for some supports to come in here, or let's get through some resistances and get a breakout. But here in the dead middle, not much to say at all. All right, so there you go. You got the move up in the altcoin market. The Dow Jones, it looked like it flipped into the green for a brief second, but now it's turning red. Now it's down 78 points. S&P's down 9, and the NASDAQ is still up 67 points over there, with your leaders of the day being Microsoft, GE, and Amazon, losers being Coinbase, United Health, and ARK. Precious metals. So DXY up now 102.42. This is what we talked about, expected. Looking over here at gold, still the big mystery on the fight between gold and between the stock market, right? Hard to believe. Just 2 weeks ago, gold stabbed for the all-time high. It took 3 years for that to end up happening. Gets it, loses it overnight. Now we've got the stock market all-time high. And everybody cheering and hollering over there that the stock market is starting a new bull market and that the Fed rate cuts are going to be the ultimate thing. The market can have a lot of tricks up its sleeves, and I think that's what we kind of covered in yesterday's video. But otherwise, the week, this is kind of a flat week. I think the harder part about the week, just from a psychology perspective, probably for most people, was just the week started off rough. So the whole week had kind of been like a little bit of a catch up. Remember at the very beginning, it was like, I don't see anything in here that looks like it has broken. This looks more like it was just a throwback back test that has happened in here, which it was, right? Then the rest of the week, it's been trying to kind of reclaim that from the excitement that we saw last week, which we got, but still nothing huge. So really kind of a washing machine week, back tests happening in there, recovery from the back test, but no huge things happened this week. So we just kind of have to wait till next week to see if we can get some more. I'd say the bigger things that happen in here is that, one, we know Bitcoin has been structured very similar to 2020. Still, those things still lingers there. We can't forget about it. But this thing is structured very similar to what it was like back in 2020. And it was in this uptrend in here where the Dow broke into the all-time high, which we also got this week. So those were very significant moments. Talked about it in the video yesterday on the tricks that can end up happening, on whether or not this is Fed-induced in a hiking cycle, what has happened when rate cuts happen, and whether Bitcoin follows along or not. If the stock market enters bull, if we enter euphoria, if we enter wildness, well, the element that is always required for Bitcoin is a new all-time high in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And I saw somebody post here in the chat before we even got started. Hey, the stock market's in an all-time high, and you said that Bitcoin follows the stock market. Why isn't Bitcoin in a new all-time high? If you studied all, that's my interpretation of the whiner. If you study all the history of when Bitcoin breaks into all-time highs with the stock market, it's within 56 days. It's never, ever been on the same day. Matter of fact, it's never been on the same week. The shortest amount of time it's ever been is 2 weeks. The longest it's ever been is 56 days. And there are times where the stock market goes into all-time highs and loses itself, especially when it's completing a hiking cycle and a pause cycle, and it goes into a cutting cycle like we saw there in 2019 and 2020 when S hit the fan with C19. Little did people pay attention to the fact that we were doing a hiking cycle. We had entered into a pause. The breakout in 2020 in 2019 was because the Fed started QE. Then the Fed started really going to town, and everything fell apart with C19. So the thing is that we do at least have this element here. We needed that element here, but never in any of the historical times have they happened on the same day, let alone within the same week. The shortest ever was within 2 weeks, and that actually goes all the way back to like 2012 and 2013. Otherwise, within the last decade, within the last 2 years, it's been like 45 to 55 days of how long it actually took. And in this example right in here, the one from 2020, you can at least look at that one. How long did it take? About 37 days. So, just kind of give you a ballpark of how this market has behaved in the past. And again, there's people out there who are like dying to say, if the stock market broke into an all-time high, that Bitcoin would break into an all-time high. No, you are totally making that up. The only way a Bitcoin can break into an all-time high is if the stock market can break into an all-time high. But there are definitely cases where the stock market breaks into new all-time highs and Bitcoin does not follow along, right? There are cases. However, there are no cases, none, where Bitcoin goes into an all-time high and it wasn't accompanied by the stock market. So you have to have the stock market going, right? So if stock market breaks up into all-time high, maybe Bitcoin goes along, but there's never examples of Bitcoin going into all-time high and stock market not. So it's like the stock market has to go, then we get to see, does Bitcoin get to go at the exact same time? Fortunately, in these scenarios, that's what we did end up having. The big thing about the stock market is just where we are right now. And we see the exact same behavior happening over there in crypto Twitter right now, over there in finance Twitter right now, that this is definitely the start of a new bull run for the stock market. But I tried to build a big case on that. That's exactly what happened in 2021 with the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and crypto. This was apparently the start of the bull market. As you all know, we were saying 100K will never happen. Imagine this is Bitcoin at $64,000 right here. So imagine Bitcoin 64,000, that's 69. And the structures were the same. I'll take it all day to be wrong on that. I don't want this thing to turn over. I'd much rather this thing just soar like absolute beautiful eagles. And crypto just goes, "Rawr, we're out of here," and goes along with it. Believe me, I'll take that any day, and I'll happily take the trolls finally running their victory lap around me over there on Twitter saying, "See, he knows nothing." I'll take it. Please, dear God, I'll take it. But to be here, it got to be on a little bit on edge. My goodness, Pat. Holy cow, Pat. Thank you, brother. Everybody gets green. Pat just gifted 50 memberships, man. Thank you, brother. All right, so there you go, guys. On a Friday, we essentially recovered the chaos that happened over there on Monday in the crypto market. Things are pretty tame here heading into a Friday. The big event of the week, of course, was the stock market. Now it's going to be the coming months ahead to try to determine any type of topping structure. And to remember, fear-mongering. We are 5% away from how high the stock market went before the Great Depression started. Have a nice Friday. We've risen about, how much percentage have we risen? Since the great financial crisis, we have risen 475%. We are 5% away from how high we went till the Great Depression. What a wonderful day. All right. I won't do that to you. How exciting, right? It's yay. New bull market. Fed is easy. Yay. All right. I'll knock it off. It's Friday. It's Friday. This thing's done. I'm happy, man. Let's go. There's really not even a lot for me to cover here in Markets in the Morning outside of saying, look, Bitcoin's still just holding. This was our big week with the stock market into the new all-time high. The US dollar currency index fell, as we talked about for weeks. We got exactly what we talked about in a crashing structure on the money. And then now gold just kind of waddles back and forth. So any type of news out there, I mean, okay, Feds, John Williams says the central bank isn't really talking about rate cuts right now. Yeah, okay, whatever. We all saw Powell talk. Olive Garden owner Darden beats earnings estimates. Dow futures little changed Friday. Fed shrinking balance sheet is worrying a key market segment. Feds Williams says talk of March rate cut is premature. Market has it priced at a 61% probability that they will cut start March. By May, they have it priced at a 95.1% probability that they will be cutting by May. Almost entire $8 trillion ETF market hinges on a few key firms. Fidelity and JP Morgan buck market by betting on a stronger dollar. Well, that's what we've been talking about too. If this is true, if this has been a full-blown crashing structure from here, right? This is how we end it. This is like your spring phase to come in here. That would be the case, right? So Tesla viewed with newfound caution by Mexico. City shuts Mooney business that was envy of rivals. Hungary vetoes Ukraine aid. $100,000 Bitcoin. Don't undervalue the Bitcoin ETF influence, says Adam Back. We're gonna find out, right? I've said it's the carrot dangled all year. Carrot dangle. U.S. dollar hits 4-month low as Bitcoin trader predicts 10% drop to come. Dang, really? 10%. Jimmy.eth once minted 420 Bored Apes and had NFTs worth $150 million. Don't get excited about Fed dovishness or dovishness. Another rate cut is in the cards. Right, that was an oxymoron. Don't get excited about Fed dovishness. Another rate hike. Oh, another rate hike is in the cards. Not according to this. They put a 0% probability on a rate hike. Cointelegraph trying to get them clicks. First Trust files for Bitcoin buffer ETF with the SEC. Bitcoin to surge to $80,000 as stablecoins overtake Visa in 2024. Yearn Finance pleads arbitrators to return funds after $1.4 million multi-sig mishap. Ledger patches vulnerability after multiple DApps using connector library were compromised. Crypto in the Well and Snake Villain star in FCA's pixelated animation. TMX by 78% of ETF tool. Here we go. CoinDesk. SafeMoon files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Bitcoin's reaction to central bank moves. First mover America's Bitcoin ends the week in muted mood. And I think that's kind of how we described it this morning. I think that's kind of we just had to describe. It's kind of a mute week. You know, we started Monday pretty rough, and then the next 4 days were all about just a slow grind back to reclaim what happened on Monday. So kind of a washing kind of week. Crypto firm SafeMoon files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and SafeMoon plunges 42%. Wow, today we didn't really get bombarded too hard with ETF hype. You know, the stuff was going on over there with Ledger. Again, reminder, if you use those devices, they say to always double check the address that is there on the screen of your Ledger and confirm that it is the same address that you were trying to send to. So a lot of times what these things will do is you think you're sending it to the right address. It looks like correct on the screen, but then it actually has a different address being displayed on your Ledger when you're signing it. So always double check those. Otherwise, nice to get to the end of the week. And I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful weekend. The big things of this week is that crypto, again, was pretty muted. Like that word says, good mood for it. Pretty muted this week after Monday's liquidation event. It was $500 million. Was it million or billion? I can't remember. Million? Million, right? Yes, $500 million in liquidations. Right? Oh my gosh. My brain is so farted. Bitcoin liquidations. Million. $500 million in liquidations that happened on Monday. So absolute wreckage of those who were trading on leverage. So leverage got completely wiped out on Monday. And then the rest of this week was just kind of rebuilding a little bit of strength here and holding itself together. And like we saw over there with, and some alts, I mean, have just completely plowed higher than those levels that we saw happen on Monday. Where's Monday on here? Back here. Monday's back over here. Hedera. Monday's back over here. So some of them have totally reclaimed them, but just the market in general has been, more so like this. So pretty tame. A mix of both, right? So otherwise, I think we've covered it all. Let's see. Okay, there you go. Bitcoin's still above 42K. Others recovers what happened on Monday. Dow Jones breaks into new all-time high this week. That's the big story of the entire week. As we know, gold did that 2 weeks ago and eventually lost it. Otherwise, news-wise, not a whole lot going on today except for the Ledger stuff. It seems like Ledger has fixed the vulnerability that was over there. Pretty sure we're all getting pretty tired of all the Ledger headlines. Coming weeks, I'll probably be shifting a lot of stuff around to diversify more out of being on Ledger. But yeah, I think we're all just kind of you let one thing kind of go. That's my mindset of like public tends to overreact sometimes to certain things. But then there was even something else earlier this week about how much like user data is gathered with Ledger like into the code data collection. And I think, and somebody made a good point that like ever since they've started selling their own private equity, now there's investors and they've got to become more of a for-profit thing, not just selling devices, but they've got to find a way to make money with subscriptions and with the software. And so you're seeing a whole lot more kind of other stuff happening in there. But yet yesterday's was more of like an actual software vulnerability. So that was a little sketchy over there for Ledger, but they did announce that they have fixed that particular issue. Otherwise, there you go. That's what it's like heading in. We've recovered what happened on Monday, or at least most of it. Some altcoins exceeding a lot of it. The stock market new all-time high. DXY sets another new low here for the last few weeks. And there you have it. That's how we're going to kick off heading into the weekend. One thing to remember, I will be off on Christmas break, the 21st through the 26th. Which means we will have markets in the morning next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. However, this guy's going to start getting fat and eating candy and pie and all that stuff starting on Thursday. So I'll become immobilized on my couch. I won't have time to talk into a microphone because my face will be stuffed constantly. So I will be off starting on Thursday, and I will be back the following Wednesday. Again, I always mention that just because I've done this is now my fifth Christmas break, fifth Christmas that I've been making YouTube videos. And in the early years, made the mistakes of really just kind of going through the holidays and continuing to create content and do all that stuff. And then eventually learned that it's better in the long term for me to take a few days off, refresh the old brain, and then we come back and we hit the new year strong, and we're not dragging. We're right out the gate super strong. So again, we'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. But then Christmas break does start for me from Thursday through Tuesday, and I return back the following Wednesday. So there'll be 6 days where I'll be gone. All right, looking over at the stock market, looks like the NASDAQ is still continuing that little march up there. Looks like stocks, the other indexes are coming back a little bit, but the NASDAQ is up 78 points. The Dow is up 35 or down 33 points, and the S&P is down 3 points. So there you go, a mixed day over there on Wall Street. But let's go ahead, jump into the chat. That's your summary of how the day is starting today. Stocks mixed. And the indexes are mixed. Bitcoin's still above 42K. This entire week has been trying to kind of recover that $500 million liquidation that happened on Monday, which a lot of assets have recovered and exceeded, but the market in general has really just kind of gotten back to where we started the week. I think Cointelegraph or CoinDesk explained it pretty good. Pretty muted week here in crypto, but of course the big story is we got an all-time high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which back in 2020, this whole thing we've been studying, this is where we got the all-time high for the Dow Jones. Sure enough, we get it. So check yesterday's video for more on that. And of course, check what I've been working on like an absolute madman here, the newsletter that was released today on blockchainbacker.substack.com. All right, as we head into the weekend, right? All right, Ali K says, hey, BCB, I hope all is well. I don't have a question. I just wanted to give a super chat as a token of appreciation for 2+ years of videos. Peace be upon you. Ali K, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Those are always nice. Just kind words. Thank you. Spags says, Charles Atkins appointed as president for HBAR. Cool. I don't know who that is. Mark Duval gifted 5 BCB memberships. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it, man. It's very kind. And for those who got your name flipped green, and we're going to get to Pat here in a minute, who went nuts. But Mark, thank you. It was very kind. Zach King says, given XRP is already number 1 in your portfolio, and the fact that it typically moves last, will you rotate profits from alts into XRP if it's late in the run and XRP hasn't moved much yet? Thanks, BCB. I haven't given enough thought to that yet. That is possible, but it's going to be, while there will be, I'm willing to do rotational stuff. I have to see what the market conditions are going to be like at that exact moment. And it is already super heavy. So XRP is like 35% of my portfolio. So it's a big one in there. And that's already quite a bit of allocation for me. That's already an uncomfortable level of allocation for one particular coin. And that's just from years of just like buying dips, stacking them on buying dips, and getting it all the way up there. But I don't know yet. I already have such a huge allocation. It's not something I'm thinking to myself, hey, I need to put more risk into that at this point. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I appreciate it, brother. Cougar Love, thank you very much. Says, thank you, BCB. Of course, I love your content and your voice, but I usually am driving when I'm listening to you. Can you do a 5-minute explanation of your theory and how you're going to trade the altcoins in the near term? I don't have to trade them at all. I don't do a lot of day trading, right? And that's what everybody wants. So that's what all newbies want. They want to be told how to buy and sell and trade on really short time frames. And that actually usually comes, and I'm not talking about you, Cougar Love, I'm just making a statement here, that it comes from an impatience and emotional instability. When you get into this market, it is so volatile that if you lose 10% in a day, for most people, that's just like, whoa, no way. That can't happen. That can't happen. That was devastating. I had $62. Now I only have 54. That was just, oh my gosh. I can't believe that happened to me. You can't handle volatility, right? So they want winners, they want 100x's, they want things to happen really quickly, and of course they get real emotional when they don't get that. But if you find you're trying to day trade these things, I don't care what people are posting on Twitter, because I watch people's calls. I sit back, like all these traders who say they're really, really good and they're trading phenomenally. I like in this past stuff here, I saw so many traders get blown out. Big names get blown out on Bitcoins. Trading, it's a very difficult thing to do on short term, especially if you don't have the experience to like be a computer. Like you almost have to be an actual computer where you are literally a non-emotional human being. Like non-emotional. Like you don't have the ability to love. You don't have the ability to hate or to get angry. You don't have the ability to feel anything. You are a true psychopath. Or you just have like a computer, very clear defined rules. And with traders, they always know, and I talk about this too, traders can be fine with only having a 50-50 win rate, where they're wrong 50% of the time and they're right 50% of the time. But in the end, when they're right, they win 2, and then when they're wrong, they only lose 1. And then with the law of large numbers, do this many, 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 many times, those 2s stack up more than those losses of 1s. And that's what true trading is. And that's not what people who are looking for trade calls on Twitter from cartoons are looking for. They're looking for the 100x trade call, and it's got to be right on the first try. And that is just not what trading is. Trading is literally you're going to be wrong all the time. And the thing I'm doing right now is I bought heavily and I'm hodling, right? There's no trading for me that's actively taking place in here. And the only thing that will happen is risk mitigation that happens when we get back up into higher prices and into retracement levels. And even over here, right, you look at others, where is the 702 retracement? It's back over here at what? April pricing. That's where we see Bitcoin. It's where we've seen other assets like Chainlink it too. Matic, Dogecoin, I'm drawing a blank, but I've done it in videos. There's like 7 or 8 that have shown that this has been the level of just struggle here, this April level. And so taking some off the table in here, because my thoughts and expectations are that this has been a completed crashing structure. It is totally clear as day that this is a crashing structure that happened in here, right? Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do? We roll back up to wave 4 within wave 5, right? So this is the bigger subwave 5, 6, and then 7, right? Move that up a little bit. There you go. And then after we pull out of here, what are we talking about? Cruel summer. What do we typically get after a cruel summer? We get an A, a B, and a C. Next is the full-blown breakout. And so these breakouts head up here, but usually we're going to, at a minimum, pull back down into that level. That's just what historically happens. So there's going to be, every troll is foaming at the mouth right now to see if it's going to or not going to, and say, it did not. But this is what typically happens. Like we're talking about traders. Traders know very well they have a 50% hit rate. But when they win two. When they lose one, right? So we get back up into the retracement levels. You can stop at many different locations within here, even getting above here in a completed crashing structure when you surge back up. But typically what happens is we pull back down in here. So if we can get higher, right, my thoughts are I'll be pulling some out of the market and setting it aside, watching what the stock market is doing, and then seeing if we get this pullback in here, which would, we'll see what Bitcoin ends up doing. But if Bitcoin's in this type of thing to get roaring, we may not end up seeing that. We still have more information that needs to be processed by the market to see it. But the most common thing after a crashing structure is the zoom back into the retracement levels, followed by a big, fat crashing slam right back down to where we came from, where we got out of. That's the most common thing. And then making sure we can hold some supports in here. And if we can hold some supports right in here, it'll be about jamming money back in. If this market continues to rampage beyond here, I won't be concerned because I'll still have at least 35% of my money still in the market at that point. And I'll make the decision at the time on what the rest of those things, what the rest of the market is looking like at that exact time, what Bitcoin's looking like at that exact time, on whether or not I want to re-enter in with any of those additional funds again, or even if I do, maybe it'll be safer bets, stuff that isn't so volatile. We'll end up seeing. But the things that I plan on cutting from in here, I've already started my portfolio list on there to say, what is it? Of all the assets that I have, what am I willing to cut 100% of? What am I willing to cut 50% of? What am I willing to cut 33% of to get it to where it is the whole portfolio that's like cut 50%, but it wasn't all like the exact same assets because like in here, in all of this stuff, I still have some old stuff in there that doesn't follow all these rules and these guidelines that worked back in 2021, but I have a lot of stuff that definitely follows these guidelines of what worked in 2021. So why would I want to cut all the stuff that historically has done better performance based on the data associated with it? Or would I rather just completely cut the stuff that doesn't have the data that improves the odds? An example I used in here, or an analogy I used in here, is that if you imagine that you go buy 20 different assets, right? And let's say you're going to buy them from the top 100 in the cryptocurrency market, right? You're going to CoinMarketCap, you're looking at the top 100, and you're just going to pick them. You're just going to look at the list and pick 10. Essentially what you're doing is you're throwing darts at a dartboard, and you're throwing darts and there's like balloons on the wall, right? Wherever your dart hits, when that balloon pops, there's a prize inside. Well, some of them also don't have prizes. Some of them have nothing in them at all. And so, the idea of it is to try to reduce the number of ones that don't have anything in them at all. We're still going to be throwing darts at the balloons on the wall, but is there a way we can reduce that number from 100, reduce it down to like 30 or 40, and of the 60 that we remove out of there, or the 70 that we remove out of there, most of them were losers, right? And that we're just going to throw the darts at the ones that have the much higher probabilities. And so there's stuff I still have that doesn't fall in that list of the ones with the higher probabilities. And that, the market has a tendency, when the whole market moves together, everything can slingshot, dumb stuff can happen. But I definitely have a list created on like, what am I willing to get rid of more in here, whereas less of other stuff, right? But still, net portfolio reduces at least 50% is the thoughts I have currently right now. And then the big question, does it slam back down in here? And if it does slam back down in here, I'm going to be looking at that data that improved odds for 2021 and grabbing stuff that matches that criteria in here. If it plows through there and keeps going, we'll see. There may be some reentries made on like strong stuff, but we'll just have to see at that moment. But right now, this is really the area of interest, right? It's always retracement levels, right? And, that's the thing that I can always say. And that's, the things I've said for Bitcoin, it's the thing I've said for the stock market. While everybody's screaming in 2022, we're going down, we're never going back up, it's never going to happen. Look, we'll get back to the retracement levels, right? When we get there, it gets real complicated, right? The market has to decide. It has to say, does it go down? It has to say, does it go back up? But what happens at the bottom is retail always says we can't go back. And so what happens is we tend to go back. And then what happens from there, that's the big decision moment of the market, right? Anybody who says they know 100% always when we get back to retracement levels, they're lying to you. They're telling you baloney. I spend enough time in here all the time to sit here and come on in front of thousands of people and say, I have a very difficult time figuring out what we're going to do after we get here. That is always a challenge, and the market can be very surprising. It can reject, it can break. When we get through it, it can be really exciting, but we can also reject and go to Goblin Doomtown from there too. And that's going to be the challenge. But the thing is to say, we're going to get back there. The problem is what we're going to do from there is the big uncertainty, right? And pretty consistent with that for the last couple of years. And that's why my favorite haters who love to hate me and follow me on Twitter hate all throughout here, and then we go up and they still hate. Like, what the hell? But all right, there you go. So here we go. We're just gonna head into the weekend. Let's go. Let's zoom on. All right, thank you, Cougar Love. Brandon John, new member, welcome. Molly 86, just for fun, let's say Bitcoin does run to pass all-time high. What fib levels do you see it can reach? It would be very difficult for me to read how high Bitcoin would go after here. Very difficult, right? It is no shame in saying I don't see it. Like, I just don't see it for Bitcoin. That's the big problem. I just don't see it. The only way I see it for Bitcoin is in an event like that. Right? That's like the only way I see the all-time high. Is that it's like, hey, this thing still has like a year to go to consolidate and do stuff like this to go. But getting out beyond that, like if it did go into an all-time high in the next 40 or 50 days, right? Next 60 days or something like that. You guys know, for years leading up to this, this is where it was. And when we got to laser eyes and diamond hands and the 100K, 250Kers and people using log-based fibs, putting them out to $300,000, it was just astonishing. It was astonishing to say, this is the price level we talked about. I sell my Bitcoin not even a week. I think it was the day after Tesla announces. That's when we finally land into my price. Was it actually the day? I can't remember if it was the day or if it was 2 or 3 days later. But I'm selling my Bitcoin after the major news announcement, right? Because this was the area for Bitcoin. This is where the ending was coming. And I had completed my 65% exit at $58,000 for Bitcoin. Because it was all really clear. This was all super clear. This is a crash, retrace, reaccumulation, contracting triangle, and those tend to go 4.236 extensions. So, we got out in here and it was real clear. The path to get up here and to go into new all-time highs. And I know people have expectations that it's just going to be something like this and then go like that. Even that, I just don't see it. Like I don't see that. And I'm not to claim that other people are wrong, but I just don't see it. The only thing that I could see when it comes to new all-time highs, like, okay, like we do something like this, cool, crazy, but I'm not sure where the peak would be. Unlike in 2021, which we talked about for years leading up to it, very clear. Unless if this thing did slow down, like if it did just slow down and just starts continuing 2016ing, then it sets that thing up of like exactly what it always does, right? Where you have recoveries after super cycles. This was the completion of a super cycle. It now goes back and back tests the top of the previous range. Then it builds a base and then it moves up, right? Back tests the previous range, builds a base, and then it moves up, right? In the event of something like that, then you could be like, okay, well, are we working on another super cycle? And if we are working on another super cycle, you probably need the Dow Jones to keep going. It can't get rejected here at the 4.236 extension. If it gets rejected here, how the heck are we going to have a new all-time highs, or are we going to have new super cycles start for Bitcoin if the Dow and the stock market turns over and everybody's like, get dollars, yay, we love the dollar. It's going to be a hard case for that to keep going in the event of a big fat rejection happening up in here. But, you know, like if we created like the abstract scenario, right? We're totally living in fantasy land. Like we are totally sucking up the finite supply volcano magic narrative and there is no second best, right? Like we're totally buying into that and thinking that's going to be the case. That would end up being, you know, start of new super cycle in which the, you know, crazy, you know, you see what each super cycle does, essentially, you know, repeating a whole another one, which would then be like, and this is not accurately represented, but it does the point good enough, that, you know, you're going into hundreds, millions of, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for Bitcoin. Otherwise, in this particular scenario, that would be if you're starting a new super cycle, which would, of course, mandatorily require the Dow just keeps going and keeps plowing and plowing. And it would require, likely, you know, if we're just going to base it off that, you know, there's still more backtesting that has to happen here for Bitcoin, and that it's not done. That it is going to see that $30,000 to $31,000 price level again, rather than continuing this thing. But yeah, no shame over here that if we go into new all-time highs from here, like in the next 2 weeks or something like that, very difficult. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And of course, you know, we all want everybody, you know, we all get talking about new all-time highs when we are still below retraces, right? We still haven't hit the 702 retracement. We haven't even hit the 618 retracement. So we don't know the level of supply that will enter the market here. There could be a ton of supply that enters into the market here in retraces. And even at this level here right now, this is where supply entered in 2016, right? So the market cap has already hit the 618 retracement here for Bitcoin. Even though the price is low, that's why we look at the market caps too. The Bitcoin market cap has hit the 618 retracement already. And that's where supply tends to enter into the market. So when supply enters, what are we seeing? We're seeing selling pressure end up happening. So we're all, you know, cheering for insanity and craziness, but we're not there yet, right? We're not through the big levels of ultimate kaboom and struggle. And again, like it's like I always say, like markets tend to go back to retracement levels, and you know, retail will always think it's not. Retail will always think it's not. You go back and live in 2022. There's like no way we're going to retracement levels. This is the start of this. How many times did you see this? This thing copied and pasted on top of here. Right? Because not only that, this is under the 200-week moving average, isn't it? Right? This is what everybody's posting. Doom. We're dead. It's game over. What do we, I'm like, no, we tend to go back to retracement levels. We get back to them, boom, we're even getting through them now, which we talked about, of course, a lot on what distribution looks like, and that you can have a high with distribution to a 4.236 extension, which, by the way, pay attention. There's been more mumblings of Congress wanting to ban themselves from owning any stocks, which means forcing themselves to sell all of their stuff. So keep your eyes on that. But retracements, right? Same thing for Bitcoin. Retracements. If we got through them, it would just it would be something. I just don't have the I don't have the view. I don't see it of where a high could be getting out of here. And the only way I could see like a scenario is if you just kind of continued doing 2016. There was still more back testing of supports, and then the slow grind just kind of kept going like a typical start of a new super cycle does. If there's some type of big explosive blowout that happens in here, something like that, we'll see if I can see it at the time. As of right now, I just don't. Crypto Hammer 26. Hey BCB, did you leave out Mina from your newest post due to it being newer? No, I don't leave them out. Mina wasn't in the top 20, was it? Let me look. Let's see. So your question was, hey, BCB, did you leave out Mina from your newest post due to it being a newer coin? Top dev data per your latest post and inflation at 2022 is decreasing. So Mina is not in top 20 by dev activity, right? So we're not incorporating a developer report in there. We're incorporating total active development activity. Let me see where Mina is in regards to development activity. All right, that list is top 20 by actual development activity. You on this page? Sorry, you probably heard that. It's just giving me fire back saying, it's not there. It's not there. No. No, it just wasn't included because it wasn't listed in the top 20 by development activity 30 days. No reason other than that. Courtney Smith had gifted 5 BCB memberships. Courtney, thank you very, very much. It's nice to see you. And then, of course, even though Courtney was very generous with 5, Pat came and said, how about 50? Gifted 50. Pat, man, again, thank you again. I addressed you when I saw that come through, but man, of course, you're the man. And it's probably sleepy time. But it's the weekend for you already. So, dude, cool. Thank you, man. Paul, thank you very much. Says BCB, some of your analysis yesterday seemed to suggest this whole bull market in crypto could be over in less than 6 months because of the chart structures. Most think it's 2025. Thoughts? They say 2025 because they're doing 4-year block reward halvings, right? I'm not. I think it's nonsense. So I don't go off that at all. Right? It's very easy and it's very lazy to just say 4-year block reward halvings. And that cycles happen every 4 years because they don't. You can look at past ones. There's some Bitcoin cycles that are only 2 years and 3 months apart from each other. The last cycle, like on all data on Bitcoin, suggested the peak of, even though Bitcoin sets this new little all-time high. I'll hide everything. Hidden. Even though Bitcoin sets this little all-time high here, this is the peak of the market, right? The peak of the market is here. We fall off here. Peak of market is here. We fall off here. And altcoins peak over here. Like 90% of altcoins peak over here. They don't peak here. They peak here. They just retrace into this right here. This is their actual top, right? True tops of markets show blow-offs in actual things. So this is why this was confusing, especially looking for an alt season in here, not recognizing we're so deep into the bear market already. Like we knew we'd set a new all-time high, but what was unclear is we're setting an all-time high in a bear market. How bizarre. So we were so deep into this thing already that the amount of time that actually lasts between the peak and between the peak, this is only like 3 years and 3 months. It's not a 4-year cycle. The altcoin markets from peak to peak, 3 years and 3 months, 3 years and 4 months, not 4 years between peaks, right? So this is the on-chain, this is the technical indicators, this is the participants in the market, peak of the market. There were more participants in the market here than here. Right? This is where everything happens at. Your laser eyes, your diamond hands, your stimulus checkers, your Wall Street bettors who are just absolutely YOLO, and your Dogecoin people, your mother or sister-in-law who's watching Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live, who then bail from the market after they just get hammered during the sell-off that happens there in May. Far fewer participants in the market here during this. This is not our peak. Our peak is back over here, and we just see it. We see it in the technicals. We see it in all the on-chain. That even this, it's a 3-year and 4 month, 3 year and 3 month time between peak to peak. And not only that, everybody's like, look at how many people just lazily using this as the peak of the market when we very definitely even show it in here, just on the chart we're even looking at right now. That's not the peak of the market, right? Look, we see it here. We can use 2014, 2013, all the way to 2016 to show this wasn't the peak. This is actually like 200 days already into the bear. And the bear starts the day Coinbase IPOs on April 14th, right? So people are just using 4-year block reward halving cycles and 4-year cycles, and I just don't go with that, right? And if anything, you would be more like this, right? So like if you were to say late 2024 and 2025, you'd be looking for this. right? If that happens, it opens up the door. It opens up the possibility. But if we head down here and then we head down here, don't ever forget it. That's really bad. That is really bad for Bitcoin. If it goes closing down in here and closing days and closing a week in the 28s and 27s, that's still horrible for Bitcoin. And to not mistake that, right? Like if the stock market just gets completely rejected from the 4.236 extension and then Bitcoin goes plowing into 28s and 27s, really bad. Very normal for it to come back down to 30 and really in this area right down in here. Where are you at? Hitting like as low as like 29.5, but not like staying down here and closing a week here, but then bouncing up out of here. Like I think you could imagine something kind of similar to like this right in here for XRP holders. This would be like your 22.5 cent time period. Right? Total brutality for Bitcoin. But you know, not like brutality in regards to price, but how drawn out it could eventually be. If that ends up happening, then we could be like, all right, you know, this thing is still moving at this rate. But again, this rate does not indicate the peak of the market was here in 2020 in November. It shows the peak was there in April, right? I don't want to move that. There you go. The peak was back here in April. So in a circumstance like this, how much time did you have left until you hit the all-time high? That puts you like right here. And then you hit the all-time high 159 days later, right? So whatever that is, a little bit over 5 months, right? 5 months right now, so mid-May, like late May, if you moved at that same velocity happening in there. So, yeah, if people are using 4-year block reward halving cycles and all that stuff, yeah, they're definitely going to say that. But you know me, I'm spicy about that. So thank you, Paul. Sifu or Sifu? No. Sci-fi you. I don't know. Can you open up other chart and compare the altcoin breakouts in 2016 versus altcoin breakouts in 2023? Whoops. Okay, what are we doing? Right in here. You're talking about this one right here? Hey, TradingView, fix your stuff so I don't have to do this. And like, just guess. That's the level. I'm just guessing. Hey, we got it. Now let's get more. Oh, yeah, about that. There we go. There you go. Yeah, so in here, right, which, you know, we're not going to get full data in here, but you could see you get back into retracement levels, and there is a big whack down in here. How much of this market cap gets lost in that whack? It's about 33% of it, and right, we're only using wicks on here. Ah, dang it. Or even looking at this one, and I know it looks so hidden because we can't really see it in here. See this big explosion that happens in here. And it's just hard because this is way back in the day, right? It's a 90% rise in there. And then it swallows back, you know, something in there. Can we put it on the daily? Sometimes these things break on TradingView. Okay, cool. See that how aggressive it happens? And then it pulls back 43%, right? So like here's Wyckoff accumulation happening in here. Here's a big escape that happens. A big escape. And then wham, it slams itself right back down. Right? How high did that end up getting in there? So that got a little bit over 50%. So it did it from 50% and then slams right back down. and then spends weeks consolidating in here once again until you stair step a new level, stair step, and then you just end up eventually going. So I think that's what your question was. All right. Taylor McLaughlin. Can you show the dominance chart you've been comparing for this past year? The one that's crazy big ABC pullback. Yeah, let's. It is Bitcoin dominance. I haven't even looked at it in weeks. That's dominance plus USDT dominance plus USDC dominance. How are we doing? Oh man, we got all the way back down to the low again. Yeah. So, still waiting on that thing. Yeah, altcoins been doing a little bit better than Ethereum and Bitcoin lately. Matt Smith. Pat's memberships have hit a 4.236 extension and are still going. This community is awesome. I agree, man. Thank you, Matt. Tenvier gifted a BCB membership. Man, thank you very much. Daniel, hi BCB. What do you think about EGLD Multiverse? It says Multiverse X. I know very little about them. I've checked them on Twitter. I think they have like 600,000 followers on Twitter. Their dev activity, I believe, lands them in. Where are you? Number 16. I believe on Sentiment on Developer Report, Electric Capital, I believe they also were experiencing dev activity growth or dev full-time number of developer growth, but you'll have to double check that. I can't recall. But I just know very little bit about it. But it does seem to be matching criteria. So it falls in that category. Christina E. says, hi, with 2024 being an election year, would you expect the markets to do very well and avoid Doomtown until 2025? Thoughts on 2024? We saw C19 in election year. Right? We saw kind of the same thing. We saw that at late 2019, so the year before the election year, the Fed started quantitative easing and cutting into the start of the election year, and then markets fell apart like crazy into the election year. So I think, Also, what was a great financial crisis? This is an election year, right? 2008? Yeah, right? Yeah, 2008, right? Because Obama becomes president, like right here. October 2007, January, February, March. This is election year. May, June, July, August, September, October, election time. This is election time. So we have seen bad election years before. I think we all try to like find those confluences of here's what was happening in social events at that time of this, that, and that. But we can just look at the charts and say like, if it hits here and it falls, it's like, oh, it's because it was an election year. Like, okay, but it also technically hit a 4.236 extension, but okay. But so yeah, to expect a market to do very well and avoid Doomtown until after the election, we have seen it. This is an election year. Right here, 2020, and the great financial crisis was an election year. But the years has started off good, right? It started off okay, and then everything just kind of fell apart and hit the fan. But thank you, Christina. Cougar Love again. Merry Christmas. Thank you. It was very generous. And sorry I was not really clear. I'm not a day trader. No, and I wasn't accusing that. Sometimes people will post stuff. Let me say, now here I'm going to ramble before I even finish the rest of your message. Sometimes people will ask stuff and something comes to my mind of something like I've thought about, like while I'm walking around the kitchen making breakfast or something, like I need to talk about that, and then something will trigger it and I start talking, and I do assume sometimes people think I'm like directing them at them, and it wasn't directed at you, but it's a comment. When you have thousands of people watching, I was like, oh, let me explain this because my brain is running really well right now. Okay, let's get back to your comment. Cougar Love, Merry Christmas, and sorry it was not really clear. I'm not a day trader. My question should have been more direct. If you had a nice chunk of Bitcoin and several alts, some of which are 3 to 7x now, would you move other alts? Uh, it depends on your selection. You just have to understand you're not going to have a 100% hit rate. Can you accept that? That's the problem, right? And so I have already done that kind of stuff, right? Like doing that with some of my Solana and doing that with Bitcoin. I've pulled some money out, but some stuff, especially Bitcoin, like nailed it. And people don't recognize that. Like we caught the bottom. And did anybody remember I rotated Bitcoin, sold Bitcoin, and rotated into altcoins before the altcoins got moving? Bitcoin's up like 15% or something since then. But things like Cardano are up over 100, AHBAR 100. Like those rotation times, are there. So we're getting kind of, it's getting a little more difficult on rotating at this point right now because it's not like it's early, right? It's not like we're really early where like only like 5 things have really taken off and you can be like, oh, the whole market's going. Let's go ahead and get rid of these early ones and jam them. Lots of stuff has been shifting up now. So it's still like we get to a game of hot potato. And when you get a little later into it, it gets a little bit harder to do those rotations. But yeah, stuff that's really high. Like I look at stuff like Solana, right? That's already just way up there, right? I say, okay, now I'm going to do a mathematical percentage calculation and say, how high do I think this thing's going to go? How high do I think it's going to go? And like, where is this level where I know I'm cutting it at? That's sometimes I'll do that too. I'll look at something and I'll say, hey, look, we did this. Now we're back up in here. And like, I know for certain I'm definitely cutting here. And like, we're here. I've already gained 250% here. I still think it probably is going there, which is like another 30%. I still think that's going to happen. But I do know that if I got here, I'd get rid of all of it, no matter what. Like I already know I'm going to do it. So then I say, okay, well, there's this other one too that I like. And it's up like 80. But like to get to where I think it's going to go, like it still has 150 to get there. And I'll say, is now the right time, right? Like even if this thing keeps going without me and it goes for that last final push, do I want to, this is where we're trying to time the market, right? And that's one of the most difficult things to do is time the market. Do I want to go over here, right? The challenges become what we saw happen in 2021 is that the market was not created equal as it was in 2017. In 2017, 9 out of 10 assets gained strength and pushed, right? In 2021, it's 2 out of 10. 8 out of 10 assets in the market were weak. So then trying to figure out, oh no, did I delete? Yeah, I deleted stuff. We're just gonna do this. Having a list and following a list or a set of rules at the exact same time to improve probabilities, because even though you shift over to another one, you still have a risk that it's one of the ones that's not going to end up shifting its way up, right? Or like up significantly. And so that's what I've been spending this year. And I feel like I've done it. I feel like I'm done. I feel like I'm done researching the 2021 bull run and having an understanding of what happened. I think I have a full comprehension of how the market behaved. There was a lot of confusion in there, and why in the top 20 is it only 2 out of 10? And why in the top 30 is it like that? Why is it out of the top 100, only 22% of them go into all-time highs? Imagine that. Out of the top 100, only 22%. Out of the top 30, only 2 out of every 10 do something significant. What was it? And that was a head beater for a long time. And it took a trip to consensus to get the ball rolling on figuring out what it was. And it's just been nothing but research and research and research. And like I mentioned earlier, it still is the game of throwing the darts at the balloons on the wall. There are going to be some of the balloons that don't have anything in them. But can you reduce the number of balloons that you're throwing the darts at? And if you're good at it, the ones that you remove, the ones that are empty. So having a solid list, not based off of what the market deems to be valuable, because the stuff that is just listed in the top 20 by market cap or the top 10 by market cap, even in here, we go through it, we do everything, we prove it time and time and time again. It's the worst. It's the worst performer of 2021 was to utilize CoinMarketCap, utilize market caps and ranking of orders to say, if it's ranked this high due to its market cap, that must mean that it has staying power and it's strong. And it wasn't true. It wasn't true at all. And so finding other data and stuff and building a list and like trying to improve the odds. So, you know, I mean, if stuff gets really carried away, right, then I tend to do that. I tend to cut some stuff, especially if it's getting really close to the level where I was like, I've left this on the screen. I hope people aren't like tuning in, seeing that, thinking that I'm doing that. This was an example of what happened back in 2022 when everybody was screaming for Doomtown, which we didn't, right? We said, we're going to retraces. Still think it. High probability this could be the start of Great Depression. The question is, would it start from retracement levels, or would we have full-blown distribution with an upthrust after distribution, which is exactly what Bitcoin did. But yeah, rotating, I'm going to kind of leave that up to you in the environment that we're in right now. And like, depending on what you're doing, like if you're cutting something that, hey, this one's up 132%, but I'm going to rotate it into one that's only up 111%. Like, I don't know. You know, I think also a lot of stuff that is firing off early and having good stuff. It's also something to pay attention to, that like, you know, things that like HBAR and things like Cardano, things like AVAX that are having really strong moves, that if we ever do end up getting that big throwback happening in there in the market at some point, to say, hey, you know, this stuff matched the criteria of, you know, development activity and all that stuff, and it performed really well, then maybe the stuff to, when there's the next huge, massive panic, those ones are the ones to pay attention to. Because when we saw the market finally start to turn around, where did the money head to, right? It's not like we got to go not like chasing that stuff right now, but corrections will come, panic will return at some point, people will throw in the towel and capitulate. It always happens. Do not ever believe it never will again. It certainly will. Your favorite bears will come out. But, you know, right now is a good time to pay attention, kind of, and say, hey, who's doing really strong? Like, AVAX has been doing really strong. HBAR, Cardano, those have been doing really well. And just paying attention to that. And I know I am. Okay. So I don't know if I've like answered your question directly, because it's actually more of a nuanced question, especially as far as we are into it right now. But, you know, there's some complications to it. Santiago Veliz, brother, thank you, man. He drops a hundo. I need to update the thing so it's not like if somebody does that, like when Pat drops like a 50 bomber, or Santiago drops the hundos like he does, man. But it's not just a guy running a little thing at the bottom left of the screen. We need to have like, it like does something different. Yeah. Santiago, just very kind, man. Like always, you never leave a message. You just drop that and run. Thank you, sir. JJ Jacob says, well, could Bitcoin do in case others backtest now new all-time high? What could Bitcoin do in case others backtest new all-time high? What could Bitcoin do in case others backtest the new all-time high? I'm guessing you're questioning, what could Bitcoin do if others goes back to all-time high? I could imagine Bitcoin just being at its as high as its retracement levels, and others doing something like that. We'd have to see. It's just kind of creating a scenario. I get asked those a lot too, but when we're kind of like, when people are kind of optimistic, I get kind of asked this enough, and then especially when people get fearful, that I get asked a lot of really weird, fearful questions too. Like we have to draw every fear scenario. What would happen if this happened? And it's like, I don't know. We'd have to go through it. We'd have to see that. We'd have to see things unfolding in a time like that for something like that to occur. But like I've said, you know, I could see the altcoin market rallying just into Bitcoin only retracing. And so, I'm not dumb. Like I've presented all the data, made tons of videos on it. Like, right. You go back throughout all of history, you go back to 2017, you go back to 2021, it's very clear. The altcoin seasons happen when Bitcoin breaks from an all-time high. Very clear. It's very clear. This is obviously does not follow that rule. right? We're doing something different. But why are we doing something different? And it's because we seem to have there's potentially a different market dynamic happening here. And that could be the Dow reaching the excessive ending. And so there is this potential that it is not what it has been for every single bull run for Bitcoin. And that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That we get breaking out. Where are you? Here, right? We break from great financial crisis in 2013. Bitcoin goes into a bull run. We break from our range over here in late 2016, 2017. What happens? Bitcoin goes into a bull run. We break from our range here. Bitcoin goes into a bull run. So like we catch the massive moves in the altcoin market also happening into these moments at the exact same time too. But what happens in the event of like all the excessive craziness of the market happens in something like that, right? And of course, it won't look like a nice, beautiful round. It's highly unlikely. Like, you know, a lot of times it just kind of looks more like that, right? So we're talking about different scenarios because we might have a different macro condition happening here in the stock market. So it still is, it could just be into retracement levels, which violates exactly what has happened in each past one, because each past one, you don't get the big blow up in the altcoins happening until Bitcoin breaks the all-time high. But the thing that people have like not paid attention to is that it doesn't mean that the moves off the lows aren't still more impressive than what Bitcoin does. And right, just like the excessive euphoria stuff doesn't happen until later, but still the percentages are exceeding that of Bitcoin if you get your timings right. Like how much time have we spent watching this, saying the top of this was back in June. Here we are almost into 2024 and people are finally like, oh, okay. But how many months did we have to sit here? And with people on Twitter just saying, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not the top. It was, you know. So, you know, with Bitcoin, it's still the same stuff. Like, I know everybody wants to hear, hey, what's going to happen with Bitcoin at retracement levels or stuff like that. And I could spend a year and a half yelling at the internet, yelling at retail, yelling at 12Kers, saying back to retracement levels. But then beyond there, I'm willing to sit there as an observer too and say, look, this is the hard part. And we're getting there. We're in those hard parts. We know the market cap's already hit the 618 retracement level. We're just in the hard part right now. This market's going to have to give us more information to tell us what Bitcoin will do. You know, year and a half of screaming. Retail's finally willing to say, okay, I want Bitcoin now. Right? We know that. 2 months ago, they didn't want it. They still kept the 12K. Now they want it. But then where do they want it at? Retracements, like we always said they would. Randy Nell, new member, welcome, brother. Sebastian Downs, member for 3 months. Thank you for all your unseen effort. How do you determine which alts will hit 4.236 extensions and which will retrace? Wish hoo a Merry Christmas. Right, that's the very difficult part, and that's what actually all this work has been in here, is to see what happened in 2021. In 2017, again, it was 9 out of 10 assets from the top 10 go soaring off into the universe, right? In 2021, it was only 2 out of 10, a totally different market. What were those dynamics? And that's been the whole thing, like I've talked about earlier, I've been studying for in the year 2023, is to say, what the heck happened? What was it? It obviously wasn't, you obviously couldn't get them from the top market caps. You just couldn't. Even in the top 100, 22% of the top 100 go into all-time highs, right? Nearly 80% just do retraces, right? What the heck happened? And that's why I've spent all this time trying to narrow down those lists and say, how do we remove those empty balloons? So this is interesting data if you haven't seen it yet. And I've brought stuff on here. I've shown you guys the developer report stuff. I've talked to you about percentage drawdowns, circulating supply and inflation. High inflation is bad. You know it. We've talked about it on the channel. And I've shown you Electric Capital's developer report info, and I brought the guys on from Santiment. And some of you guys were like, all right, sponsored content. No, it's not. If you choose not to, if you choose cartoons on Twitter to tell you your trade calls, and that's how you're going to live your life, and then you're going to scream at cartoons on Twitter because they screwed you over. Now you were lazy. Sorry, you were lazy. you can learn. And if you the dynamic, and like still to this day, I see the bears. I see the cartoons on Twitter, the coins that they're shilling to you guys. You know what I do now? I don't just have to go. I have so many things I can go check, and I'm like, holy crap, these people are buying a pump and dump. Clear as day. Look at the dev activity. It hasn't had anything on it in 6 months, and they're all in it. It's like, wow, it's crazy. There's like thousands of likes on it. They're like, yeah. They're like, hey, do you still think it's bullish? It's like, you're crazy. All right, I'm moving on. Patrick Shupfinger, I don't know what that is. Thank you very much, brother. Ed the Metalhead, member for 6 months. Dear all, you are not special, but that doesn't mean you can't support the channel and smash like. We are all special in our own way, but what doesn't make us special is our emotions in markets. That's the thing that makes us not special. How we handle it can make us special, but we all feel the same thing. Champs is the name. Hey, BCB. Are we the lucky individuals that made it through 2023 and lived to fight another day? Oh, he says, BCB. We are the lucky individuals that made it through 2023 and lived to fight another day. Have a good holiday break and Happy New Year. Champs, 7 months. Brother, thank you very much. Yep. There's always tough times, but then there's always good times. People who could survive this are people who've gone through hardships in their life before and powered through. And if not, I hope you wrote an emotional log on your journey, people. Patrick, hey, BCB, from 2009 to 2013, Bitcoin made already 1.5 super cycles without the Dow Jones going into all-time highs. Any thoughts on that? So Bitcoin was introduced in 2009, right? So we're talking about going from... Do I not have it up here? All right, we're going to lose the dominance chart. Say goodbye. Is it on the BLX chart? Right, so we're going from non-existence asset of 6 cents to Degens playing on the internet, right? So, yes, but then when do we start real cycles after that, right? These ones in here. And let's look at the stock market in here. What is the stock market doing? Because why not? Why won't it let me do that? What are you going to do? What is happening? There we go. Nope, that's not what I want. There we go, that's what I want. Uh-oh. There's your stock market. Rally, 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 and... All right. So actually kind of funny. So there's your the starting point of Bitcoin rallying with the stock market, and the rallies actually even with this $1 asset, this 42-cent asset happening in line with the stock market. Crazy. There we go. Pretty wild. All right, Brandon Hammond just watched the newsletter. I have most of the coins, but I don't understand how KSM got on the list. Look at the charts, like a 98% drawdown. Right. So on the list, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because remember the list, it grabs 10 from each set. It grabs top 10 dev activity, right? And then the other top 10, right? Remember what happens when you compare both together and you just try to find the correlations of the two? I'd reread it again. It's very clear why it would. NF Lazo. Hey, I just wanted to say hi. Almost 3 years lurking here. Your work, content, and thesis are outstanding, brother. Keep this up. All the best from Romania. Nico, wow. Thank you very much. NF Lazo. I appreciate it, man. Connor. Oh, it's Connor Doyle. Friday Fluff, please. Okay, yeah. Fish, they're doing good. So Vinny the elf on the shelf when we woke up yesterday morning. I don't know if you know this, but Vinny has like a little dog, or it's like called Snowflake. Some of you may know what that is. Most of you will not. Most of you may not even know what Elf on the Shelf is or anything like that. But anyway, our Elf on the Shelf, Vinny, and Snowflake came up with a wild plan the other day. And Vinny got inside to a glass jar, and they attached a string to the top of the jar. And Snowflake, the dog, lowered Vinny into the 75-gallon fish tank. And so Vinny was swimming around inside of a glass jar inside of the 75-gallon fish tank 2 nights ago. So crazy. Otherwise, our fish tanks are doing great. I haven't been playing the drums very much, but I got the snare fixed. And then in regards to like other fluff, dude, I think, I don't think there's too much going on in my life outside of just kind of like working real hard through the rest of the year. And I think kind of probably like a lot of people probably looking forward to Christmas break. I love you guys. This is my life. Blockchain backer is the definition of who I am. Outside of my family, outside of being a father and a husband. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to spending time with my family and being a father and being a husband and hanging out and fishing and cooking and just having some downtime. I think that's kind of what's going on with me too. Just looking forward to that. But otherwise, like fluff, I've been here a lot. There's not a lot to fluff outside of that. Barker 2.0, he's good. How old is he now? Is he at least 3? Right, so he's 3 at least. Yeah, which makes sense because it was during C19 when everything happened with Barker and he got cancer. But yeah, BC Barker 2.0 is doing great because he's outside of the puppy phase, right? Everybody loves a puppy. I'm not a big fan of like that phase you go through where you're like, they're really wild and, they're still needing to be potty trained, but fortunately he's been really good. He really didn't need much potty training at all, but tearing stuff up, going through all that with a puppy and the wild crazy, but now he's like a 3-year-old good dog. He's right at that age, like 3. He's still healthy. He hasn't gotten chubby yet, like a lot of dogs do. He's still in that, like, he's not super lean like a 2-year-old is, but he's still in good shape at 3. So he's cool. But thank you, Connor. George Alexander Ropoulos, I'm not seeing Bitcoin hitting the 6.8 on the market cap. Can you show that? Oh man, maybe I'm wrong. I may be wrong, man. I am wrong. There you go. Not quite. There we go. Correction. Thank you, sir. Nazario Navarro, member for 4 months. Can you compare July 2016 Dow Jones fib level to now? Also, everyone hit the like button. All right. We are caught up with super chats. Okay, so we're talking here. Can you compare July 2016 Dow Jones Industrial Average fib level to now? Also, everyone hit the like button. I'm not sure what to do. You mean by fib level, like compare here to now? So essentially what you're pointing at is that, we peak in this range in May of 2015. It takes until July of 2016, almost a year later, for us to get out and get like this, right? Breaks into a new all-time high. Everyone's euphoric and crazy and wild, and then it pulls back from there, right? I'm not sure what you're asking when you say, can you compare the fib level to right now? Obviously, they both, like if you did something like this, there's not really going to be too big of a difference in fib levels because they both get out. Or if you're meaning something like this happening, I just, I don't think that's the cards that are coming up in here. The thing with retracement levels, the thing with extension levels, these are always my levels of concern, and to give any thoughts that we go beyond that, the market's going to have to prove it first. Otherwise, I always have to treat the fib levels as if like they're going to be absolute horrible Goblin Town levels. Gavr1 raises an interesting point. Any thoughts on that BCB? Let me see if I can find it. Is it in the chat? He says, consider buying again when USDT is at 7+%. Did he say anything else besides that? Check out USDT.dominance. Considering buying again when it's at 7%. So what, when it shoots back up? So we just drawing trend lines and saying when we go back and hit this. You know, like if you go to here, October to February, like you didn't get that, just so you know. Like this is your alt this is your alt season. You don't get some magical throwback to come back in here and then give it to you. It just happens in the fall of USDT. So USDT dominance is going to fall because the asset prices are gaining value or gaining price. So is that what we're saying? We're saying government raises an interesting point. Is there any thoughts on it? Is that what we're talking about? I think that's what we're talking about. I don't know. I'm personally not studying USDT dominance in particular. I'm focusing more on this because this has been very predictable. And it could always change at some point, but it's been very predictable. Yeah, but Javar, what are you basing it off of, though? You're saying you have to consider how much USDT got added in that period of time. Yeah, but what are you basing to say we're going back to 7%? What reference point of time are you using to say that's what we're doing? Because where are you drawing that from to say it's got to go back to 7%? Why does it have to go back to 7%? And what moment in time are you referencing to where it has done something like that? So what moment in time are you saying that we're in that does something like that in the past? Darnell, did you already cover U.S. Congressman Ro Khanna officially introduces bill to ban Congress and their spouses from trading stocks? Yeah, we touched on it briefly. Obviously, I tweeted it yesterday. Thank you, Darnell. It was very generous. Again, we've seen lots of that stuff, right? We've seen lots of it. But the one thing to pay attention to now is whether or not it gains real traction. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of congressmen screaming, and it makes good political theater, and it sounds good for the politician who introduces it. If that politician can put themselves on the side of saying it's wrong for Congress people to trade stocks because they have inside information, then the people within their jurisdiction will resonate with that and say, my guy's a good guy, right? And that's really all this political theater has been up until this point. But whether or not they actually execute with it like the Fed did. The Fed, surprisingly, right? So remember the order of how it actually happened with the Fed. It wasn't like they kind of like brought it up over a long period of time. It became this quick controversy. This random story comes out, and it's like two different Fed officials caught insider trading. And then it was like immediately, like a week, like I don't know the time frame, but it was very quickly right after that. Then Jerome Powell bans Fed from owning stocks, and they have 60 days or something, 90 days to be able to liquidate their portfolios. That, politicians are the best at playing theater and playing games. That random events end up happening, right? Is some congressman going to be the scapegoat, right? That, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it look really bad with this one person, and then we're all going to come in and play hero. And we're all going to act like we're good people because that person is really bad, and we know people don't want. It could be that, like, there could be some planned story, like what happened with the Fed, where two people get caught and then they all ban themselves, and that happens literally at the 4.236 extension of the S&P 500. It wasn't that they just one day said, we're going to be good people and sell at the 4.236 extension. It started with a story of Fed officials insider trading. And then days later, they banned themselves from owning stocks at the 4.236. So that could end up being the way it plays out. But otherwise, all this stuff of introducing bills, it hasn't materialized into anything. But if it ever does materialize into anything, we just watched the biggest load of BS ever happen, ever. And we all know it. 90% of America will be on board with it. Because even if you know it's a ploy for them to sell, everybody still agrees with it, that Congress shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks because they have inside information and they're not doing things for the sake of our country. They're doing things in the sake of pocketing their own, lining their own pocketbooks, right? So everybody agrees they shouldn't have it, but the majority will not recognize what they're doing. And technical analysis is like, I say it too, like this channel's not political. I'll pick on people once in a while. Elizabeth Warren's a great one. But even presidents, it doesn't matter. If it's President Trump, if it's President Biden, it doesn't matter. It's not to be political, but I'm very non-political on either side because I think they're all just wings of the same bird. But it's when you see stuff like this, when you start charting things out, and then you see political events unfold, and it doesn't matter who's in power, these little events unfold where they technically should occur at, you just start saying, wait a minute, I can't trust any of these guys. And we all know we can't trust any of them, but still we go put on our hats and we're like, yeah, this is my guy, he's going to win. But then, and that really stems more from just hating the other one a little bit more, right? But anyway, we won't get into politics. I don't do politics stuff. But in the event that Congress, choosing sides stuff, right? But in the event if Congress bans them, it does follow through with it. Remember what happened with the Fed. They banned themselves at the literal top. Matt Bragg, 0.618 pinpoint nailed on Bitcoin market cap chart from April of 2021. Hi, sir. Yes. Okay. So that's probably what it was. If you used the other one. And maybe somebody had brought this up the other day and that's where we saw it. On that one, right? Because we know that's the true top. That's the complication here too. That's the true top. Well, it's not truly a pinpoint now. It does exceed it a little bit. But yeah, that's a complicated one there for that. Night Shift says he would have to post it again. Going back through to see if he followed up to say what moment in time that. You have to consider how much he never ended up responding to that. So he didn't answer he said going to 7%, but then never answered why. Love your channel and work, man. What's your thoughts on DOT? Michael Hinkle. DOT, what is it? The second highest dev activity coin out there? So's enough. So I own some. Hey, BCB, it sounds like we might not even have an alt season because if Bitcoin can't catch up to the Dow Jones Industrial Average and alts can't catch up to Bitcoin, the fun is over if Dow Jones Industrial Average crashes at 4.236 extension. Always possible. Always possible. We're talking about this stuff right in here. If you get back up in here, this is going to be the danger zone. This is the level that has to get through in here. And the question is whether or not it can. As long as we come flying back in here, if this is the scenario, if this thing breaks out, and I've probably talked about this in 5 videos, breaks out, rejects, but finds support in here, it could take some time to go for it and to get out of there. But everybody does definitely want to see it happen right now. It's going to be a big doozy on what happens as this thing gets higher into retracement levels, which I still think is going to end up occurring. But retracements, right? Here's April. You're nowhere near that. If Bitcoin scoots through there, if other altcoins start leading the way and scooting through there, it'll be kind of a signal. But waiting for us to get up in here first. That's the big thing we need to look for. We still have a lot of catch up to do. And then we need to look at the market and see what the market is doing then. If the Dow Jones is sitting right at the 4.236 extension, right when this thing hits the 702, probably not a good sign, So right now we're theorizing way ahead of time on will we get through 702 or 618 or zero point 0.5 retracement levels, and we're theorizing what's going to happen with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We don't have confluence of multiple things happening at the same time. And sometimes when you do get those confluence things happening where you're like, wait a minute, this is at a retracement, this is at an extension, that guy over there, Elon Musk is telling me to buy, and so is Tim Cook at the exact same time, and Kramer just said he's all in on crypto. Wait a minute, these are all happening at the same time. Not good, right? And we don't have that right now. So right now, what are we? We're 2 steps ahead. We're trying to be 2 steps ahead right now to not get surprised by events later down the road. And that's how this channel always is. I'm always a couple of steps ahead. And that is very hard for most people to wrap their head around. They live in the moment, right? 2 months ago, as bearish as could possibly be, they move forward, they latch onto the ETF narrative, and they're just like super bullish as can possibly be at the retracement levels, just kind of always flying at the whim of their pants, right? And that's just not what we do here. Well, prices have been moving up. I'm not like hooting and hollering and screaming, trying to take it serious and still stay level-headed in all of it as we go through it. Joe Whiteley, hey BCB, are there any examples of assets breaking above the 4.236 extension with conviction? I'm curious how high theoretically the Dow could go. I mean, there's many of them. And the sky is the limit. Many. But I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to entertain just drawing straight lines above 4.236 extensions and saying, here's how high we're going. We're going way beyond it. Right. And not only the thing that you did say is you said breaking above 4.236 extensions with conviction, right? It does definitely happen. Happens all the time. I just don't think we structurally have something like that happening right now. If it did break up higher, if the Dow did break up higher, I do have examples we can reference back to. Maybe. But it just seems incredibly unlikely. This has been very, very normal distribution structure. We see it even on NDXT. You see the distribution happening on there that we've shown, how the NDXT is exactly like distribution, precisely. So if it goes higher, we'll start looking at stuff. But as of right now, I just don't want to entertain it because that's what people want. I know people want that. The 2 days after you break into the all-time high, hey, let's find a way to get this thing to actually go into outer space afterwards. And it's the same thing as like if in 2021, October of 2021, people wanted, hey, it's like saying right here, we know this is the 4.236 extension. It's like right here saying, hey, can we see examples of this thing going way higher than that? But me, if I would have been like, yeah, sure, here, we go to 4 trillion. It's difficult. It's not something I'm comfortable like being like, here you go. Here, we're going to get through the 4.236 extension. Here's alternatives that can happen in here. It's just kind of not how I do things. As the Dow gets there, that's a concern. And not to forget, this is how high the roaring 20s went. The example that we have from history not only is identical, but it even is the exact 4.236 extension for the roaring 20s that led to the Great Depression. So don't forget it. So, all right. On that note, I appreciate you all for all the kind. I mean, there was just tons of memberships, tons of super chats, and likes. We're over 1,000 likes in here. Friday market's kind of boring. Viewerships, we hovered around 2,000 most of the day, and that's totally, we're back to normal, right? Back to chill. Guys, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, over the weekend, this has been my work for 2 months, all compiled now and now cross-checked in a case study of what 2023 assets would look like compared to the best performing comparisons and case studies of 2021. I'm pooped. I'm ready for the weekend. You guys, of course, check this out on blockchainbacker.substack.com. There's a link in the description of this video. And man, what a week. Dow Jones hits a new all-time high, and that's how we're going to wrap up this week. And we might end up getting it here that the Dow even closes the weekly candle there into the all-time high as we finish off this week. So what a doozy. It was a milestone. Here we are. So it was funny. You just kind of look at the dates, and this is kind of weird. How weird. We're in the middle of December. It's like, hey, we were like in mid-August, like 4 months ago. But here we are. It happens. Right here in the middle of December, we get the all-time high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average as it just rampages up in there. So definitely an exciting week. And as we get ready for the holidays to start pouring in, I hope you guys all have nice holiday plans or at least some kind of relaxation or people to love and spend some time with. Again, I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Otherwise, you guys can check out all the other content that I put out there over there on bcbacker.com. And of course, the doozer of a newsletter with a 32-minute audio recording in here. But on that note, you guys, I'm wrapping it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. And then Jordan says, alrighty, BCB, I come to you humble. How many days was it from the full extension of the Dow to the day the market first started during? How many days was it from the full extension of the Dow to the day the market first started to correct during the Great Depression? It was right after it hit it, right? It happened like right away, within a week. But all right, that's it. Have a good one. Thank you, Jordan.